Leviticus chapter 11. Last week, or a week before last, we tried, as a matter of fact, it was last week, we tried to see if we can do a summary of Leviticus 11, because we were doing two things at the same time, new moon, and also try to combine it with the lessons of Leviticus. Somehow it was cut short. Tonight we want to quickly look at clean, holy, and unclean, and common. Often we hear about things or food or elements that is said to be holy or clean or unclean or common. If we look at the book of Acts of Apostles, there was a case there, Acts chapter 10. I think that should be 9 to 21. 9 to 21. Peter saw a vision. He saw a sheet coming down from heaven, and he was asked to kill and eat the contents. In it were clean, unclean, and common animals. And he replied, he has not eaten anything unclean. At the end of the day, it boils out that Yahweh wanted to use Peter to address the coming in of the Gentiles in the assembly, in the congregation, because there was a wall of partition as a result of tradition, as a result of culture that existed in Israel then. The Jews wouldn't want the Gentile people to mix with them, let alone worshiping with them. They claimed, or they said they were sinners. In a way, they were unclean. So they were not allowed to go into the temple. That was up to the time Yeshua was with them. And we saw Yeshua himself went to the Gentile people, or Gentile people that approached him. Some were sick, some needed help, and one way or the other, he attended to them. He didn't discriminate. But the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the leaders of the temple then were, placing that culture, emphasizing on that culture that Israelites are the called, the chosen of Yahweh. Therefore, they were called the holy people, clean people. The rest of the world were unclean, common, and so on. Now, at the end of the day, Peter saw that vision. And it was a mixture of clean and unclean. So how will he do it? He wanted to avoid it. That revelation or vision came to him 3 times. And that 3 times was a pointer to him that it was a serious matter. It was Yahweh's acting out or doing something that he was struggling to abide or to go with, because he wouldn't kill those animals. The voice says, kill and eat. Long and short story of the whole matter was that Yahweh told him, or the voice told him, what I have made clean, you should not make common, or you should not call common. What Yahweh has ordained, chosen, made holy, you should not make unholy or unclean. So Yahweh has to explain to Peter that what was going on wasn't animal, so to speak, though it was a collection of animals inside the basket. It wasn't animal. The collection of what he saw as animals were figuratively human beings. Israelites, the clean ones, the Gentiles that look like unclean or common. Yahweh said, I have made those Gentiles that come into the fold clean. Therefore, inasmuch as Yahweh has said they are clean, they remain clean. That was the beginning of breaking the wall of the partition, or the iron curtain that stood between the Gentiles and the Jews, or the Israelites. It happened to be that Cornelius and the family had been calling upon Yahweh for a long time. And Cornelius saw an angel of Yahweh who came to tell him that ever he has been calling Yahweh, Yahweh has been hearing his prayers, Yahweh has been, listening to him, and now he has come to bring him in. Therefore, he should send his messengers to Peter, who was praying at that time, that he should come and preach the good news of the kingdom. Declare Yeshua, declare Yahweh to them, and baptize them in the name of Yeshua. And that was done. So as Cornelius was giving the details, he sent his messengers, went to Peter. As they were arriving where Peter was lodging, Peter was told by the Spirit that so people are coming from Cornelius, get ready to follow them, go to his house and do what the Spirit has declared to him. So that was it. That was how Cornelius and the family and members of the community that were with him, because he was a renowned man. He was a big man. He was a rich man. So many people were around when this happened. And the Gentiles received the good news. The Gentiles were received into the assembly of Yahweh. So from there on, the 12 disciples and other leaders, other disciples as well, began to receive the Gentiles, because the Council of Jerusalem in Acts chapter 15 declared that Peter testified of what happened between him and Cornelius, how Yahweh brought them in, and other testimonies that went through. There and then, a letter was given, to the Gentiles that were outside Judea, that they are now welcome into the fold, provided they stop eating strangled meat or blood, and stop fornication and anything that has to do with idolatry. Then, if they keep themselves off from those, they will do well. they will be taught, they will be allowed to be brought into the temple. Unfortunately, somehow, the Judaizers were hindering them. They didn't, allow the message of Peter, Barnabas, Silas, and so on to flow in the midst of the Gentiles. But they prevailed all the same, in as much as they were inciting even the Gentiles to go against Paul and Barnabas and others. They did their best, and the Holy Spirit was fighting the battle for them. Now, that is a typical scenario of clean or holy, or what is unclean. It's a very, very important lesson for us to guide ourselves. Let us go to Leviticus 11. That description of what happened in Acts chapter 10 does not signify that we should eat things that are unclean, because the Christendom, that is what they preach, that's what they teach. Oh, Peter was asked to kill and eat. But Peter even said all those things were animals that he couldn't eat. He was right. Even the Spirit, didn't blame him for saying that he can't kill them and eat. But the narrative was in a different, it was pointing a different thing. It was strictly pointing about bringing human beings into the kingdom. That was the Gentiles. It wasn't animals. It was about human beings. So, and those human beings were made clean. Now, let's quickly look at, before we expressly go into what we have today, let's quickly look at the reason for this clean and unclean or holy things that we must guide ourselves. Why clean and why unclean? Often we hear about things that are clean, holy, unclean, common. Now, common can be regarded as something that is somehow profane, blasphemed, defiled, polluted. It's like something that is very close to say is unholy, is unclean, something that is corrupt. It is between clean and unclean, or clean and holy. It's just kind of in between. In the Old Testament and the New Testament, these words remain, that is clean, holy, unclean, common. They remain part of the rules of obedience. Israelites must recognize what is clean and what is unclean, what is holy, because Yahweh made sure that the rule or the regulations or the laws that pertain to whatever that is clean or unclean, he made sure that Israel take it as a culture, as a way of life, because he has a very, very strong, what we call, cogent reason for ensuring that his people follow the strict rule about eating, even if it's food or things that say dead animals, making sure that the are able to discriminate. Everything that comes around may not be welcome. So they must be able to understand what to touch, what not to touch, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, and so on and so forth, because they must be like him. These laws seem very strange to us today, but they serve an important purpose or purposes in the life of average true Israelite man or woman, both spiritual and physical person. Spiritual in the sense, if you're a priest, that is a spiritual person. Physical in the sense that we, not really, well, everybody, we operating at 2 levels, physical, spiritual. Everybody must be guided by this very instruction. Now, there are reasons for the holy, clean, and unclean things. What are these reasons? Let's take them one after the other. Number one, they are designed to set Israelites apart. Setting apart here is setting them to be holy people, holy, to make Israelites to be distinct from other nations, other neighboring people that were around them. That was when they were in Israel. What about now that Israelites are all over the world with the Gentiles? Would the Gentiles pollute them, defile them? Leviticus 20, 24 to 25. The answer is there. Why is it that Yahweh wants Israel to be clean, holy, pure, unblemished? And in that verses, Leviticus 20, 24 to 25, Yahweh stated, I am Yahweh, Yah, who has set you apart from all other people. Did you hear that? He set his people apart from all other people. You must therefore make a distinction between ceremonial, clean, and unclean animals.
And it's not 24. It's not 2024 you are reading.
Leviticus 20, 24 to 25.
Yeah.
You didn't get it there, is it not there?
No.
I'm reading from what I copied out from it. Just a minute.
You shall inherit the land, and I'll give it unto you to possess it. The land that flow with milk and honey.
All right. Okay, let us look at verse 25. Ye shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and between unclean fowls and clean, and ye shall not make your souls abominable by beasts, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. 26. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I, Yahweh, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. So this is the reason why Yahweh encouraged them to be clean always, because he wanted them to be distinct. He wanted them to be peculiar people. Remember in Exodus chapter 19, verse 5 and 6, he said that they should hear his voice and to keep his commandments, so that they can be peculiar people, royal priesthood. They are the chosen race, chosen people of Yahweh. They are distinct from other people. So that instruction is what is carried on to this Leviticus. So emphasizing it and breaking it down, what they must do and what they should not do. Now, listen to number 2. Israel was to be a holy nation, verse 45 in chapter 11 there. A holy nation. And to be holy meant to be set apart. Set apart for Yah. Only if Israel was holy could it serve Yahweh's larger purpose, to be an example and a blessing for all peoples of the earth. Remember, Yahweh had told Abraham, who was also called out from the Gentile world, chosen, separated, to be a holy person of Yahweh, that if he lived blamelessly, if he followed Yahweh, walked as Yahweh walked, followed the way of Yahweh, lived a righteous life, his descendants will also follow suit, and Yahweh will bless him and his descendants, and they will be a blessing to all mankind living in the earth. Genesis chapter 12 verse 3. That was one of the promises and admonition to Abraham when he was called. Now, Abraham, you are set apart. You are holy. Number 3 reason there, Yah, in his infinite love, wants his people to be set apart or sanctified or make holy or be called holy people, to eat healthy and live a life free from sickness and diseases that may result from eating foods that are holy or healthy to their bodies. You know, most times we don't know that sicknesses, diseases, and infirmities, and so on and so forth. You know, suddenly somebody begin to get sick, run head and scatter, leave for doctor. You don't know that it's most of the things you've eaten or drunken that would have brought or caused that kind of problem or ailment. Now, if we are careful to understand what we eat, ensure that what we eat is clean, is holy, in accordance to the will of Yahweh, the food, the kind of foods and drinks He wants us to put into our body, I tell you, we will hardly sick or be sick, because in fact, majority of the sicknesses in the body of mankind is because of what they eat. Though not all of them, but majority. When people are sick, you hear people are in hospital. By the time we trace it and trace the history, that could be what one has eaten or drunken. Most foods are in themselves disease carriers. We are going to see most of these when we really launch into this chapter 11. How does obeying these details, that is the laws given to Israel, how does it make us clean or make us holy or be separated people or be distinct people? How? Number 1, the laws involving outward cleanness were meant to lead to inward cleanness or holiness. Yahweh wants us to be clean inside and outside, not just outside. The Pharisees try to be holy outside. Try to be clean outside. Look at most of the priests. You see them, they put their regalia, they put their this thing. When you look at them, they look neat, they look, and when they're walking, they walk saintly. You say, that man is a holy man. But right inside, if you are to open inside, it's like, how did Yeshua describe it?
Whitewashed tomb.
Whitewashed tomb. Inside is rotten, filthy, smelly things. But outside looks completely white painted.
Big mountains.
Such life Yahweh wants us to avoid. He confronted the Pharisees. Yeshua confronted the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, who were living outward life. So he wants us to live both inside and outside clean. Make sure that everything about us is clean. Now, example, Yeshua rebuked the Jewish leaders who were breaking the clean laws, who were blindfolded in traditions and commandments of men to break the law. Matthew 15, that was that confrontation. It was the Pharisees that confronted Yeshua, asking him, why is it that your disciples doesn't wash their hands? They don't wash their feet. When they see food, they start rushing it and all that. So that challenge, Yeshua gave it back to them, because they preferred to obey human commandments, human traditions, while the commandments of Yahweh is put at the back burner, is trashed. Yeshua said, why is it yourself? If I will ask you, why is it that Yahweh gave you a commandment, you don't obey the commandment, but you prefer to obey your own commandment? Your own commandment and the commandments of Yahweh, which one comes first? At the end of the day, Yeshua told them that in as much as you make yourself outside clean and inside is filthy, then you are guilty of breaking the law. He used example of 5th commandment: honor your father and your mother, so that your life on earth will be long. And he said, if anybody disrespects his father and mother, he will die the death. He will die. Then he told them that what they do is, what is supposed to go for their parents, they said, no. We are going to give that gift to Yahweh. It's not our parents, because Yahweh understands. It's even better to give to Yahweh than to give it to parents and all that. So they will find an excuse. That is just giving them an excuse. Because what is for Yahweh is for Yahweh. What is for parents is for parents. It's like when Yeshua said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to Yahweh what belongs to him. So Yeshua said it's absolutely wrong. It is denying parents their respect, their honor due to them. Therefore, they have broken the law. And he told them, for doing that, they call the name of Yahweh in vain. They worship him in vain. How? When somebody rejects the commandments of Yahweh and is doing his thing, he's doing his own, obeying himself, obeying leaders, obeying the traditions or commandments of men, and leave Yahweh's commandment, that person is breaking Yahweh's law. Doing that, breaking Yahweh's law, means that the person has removed himself from Yahweh. Therefore, Yahweh has nothing to do with the person, or the person has nothing to do with Yahweh. The person has separated himself from Yahweh. As a result, whatever worship the person is engaging himself is vain. It's not acceptable before Yahweh. So that's a warning in Matthew chapter 15, 1 to 20, and Mark 7, 1 to 23. You must desist from anything that is rebellion, anything that has to do with disobedience, because the Christendom will teach that most of all these laws we're to talk about tonight, that they have been removed. That by grace, that grace does it all. Grace, completely gave them faith, and faith prepares them for all the favor they receive or they will get from Yahweh. As a result, that is, Yeshua has paid the whole price. By grace, they don't need to do anything else rather than to enjoy themselves. And when the bell to go to heaven rings, all of them will fly to heaven. Now, Scripture never teach that, but they believe that nobody obeys the law again. If you don't obey, then where is the relationship? Was it not because of obedience? Was it not because of doing? Was it not because of following these instructions we are talking about that Yahweh called Abraham in Genesis chapter 17 and said, "Follow me and be blameless. Walk before me. Walk as I walked and be blameless." So if we continue to walk our own way, like Yeshua chastised the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes, in Matthew 15, if we continue to behave that way, where are we going? At the end of the day, is it not worshiping in vain? Because obedience is not there. If obedience is not there, you can't do anything to keep his law, to keep his commandment. What does this ask you to keep? He said, no, I won't keep them because Yeshua has kept them all. No, we didn't say that. See in Matthew 15 and Mark 7, where Yeshua was addressing the same issue that Christians are today rejecting. I wonder whether they read Matthew 15 and this Mark chapter 7. I don't know whether they read it. Now, some Pharisees and teachers of religions, or the teachers of the law, now when they arrived in Jerusalem to see Yeshua, there was an issue. Okay, that is what happened in Matthew chapter 15. That confrontation was there, and Yeshua explained to them that there must be need for you people to obey honor your parents. And the first parent we have is Yahweh. In Exodus chapter 20, that fifth commandment there refers first and foremost to Yahweh. Then followed by the earthly parents, father and mother. So he described to them, told them what they were not doing, they must do. Now, they asked him, why do your disciples disobey our aged, old traditions? For the disciples disobey, that is, those who are following Yeshua, they disobey the traditions of elders. They ignore the traditions and the ceremonial rules, like washing of hands before eating their food. Yeshua replied, and why do you, Pharisees, by your traditions, violate the direct commandments of Yahweh? For instance, Yah says, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. But you say it is all right for people to say to their parents, sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give to Yah what I would have given to you. In this way, you say they don't need to honor their parents. And so, you cancel the word of Yahweh, the fifth commandment, for the sake of your own tradition. You hypocrites, Yeshua called them. Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you. For he wrote, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is false. That is, their worship is in vain. They worship him in vain. For they teach man-made laws as commandments. For they teach man-made laws as commands from Yah. That is certain example now which we know: Sunday worship, Easter, Christmas, New Year, and so on and so forth. All these are rules that we see in the Gentile world today. When you want to look at what Yeshua was addressing there, all these are the things they brought in. They are all human rules, human traditions they brought forward. So they brought all this to cancel what Yahweh put in place, like Sabbath, like Passover, like the feasts. For instance, the Feast of Tabernacle. They use Christmas to replace all those. New Year, which they celebrate, and our New Year is Passover. If somebody asks you, when do you celebrate your New Year? Or what time is your New Year? It's just Passover. Passover time is our New Year. Because that is the beginning of the month and the beginning of the year for Israelites. Now, Yeshua made it clear that when we disobey the law or commandment of Yah, we separate ourselves from him. We make ourselves unclean or defile ourselves, resulting to breaking his law or his word. To such a person, however, he or she would pretend to serve or worship Yahweh thereafter, and whatever he's doing is in vain. Now, outward cleanness, we have said that inward and outward cleanness are required. You can't do one and leave the other. Both are important. Now, we need to promote health and well-being when we engage in outward cleanness. We have to do that. Make sure that we promote or pursue outward cleanness. We also pursue or promote health and well-being. We prevent disease from spreading amongst us and amongst people, like flu, like Ebola, COVID, and all other things. Now, when we strictly follow Yahweh's principles, even COVID will not catch us.
Amen.
Yes, because there are certain things, washing hand is part of, or cleaning yourself. After, where did the world learn how to keep themselves clean? Is it not from Torah? So when you keep to the principles of Torah, there is no way the sickness of or diseases of this world will go after you. No way. Now, when you avoid eating raw meats, raw food, certain raw foods, like, you see, crayfish, crab, I don't know, all those seafoods and so on. See where they, package them. Most of all these hoteliers package them, they serve them to people, and they enjoy them. People, just take pleasure to go into those hotels, buy those food, eat them. They don't know that they are taking poison in to their body. Unfortunate. That's what is going on. Many doesn't know. Now, it helps to provide practical and unifying standards of cleanness for the people when we put our eyes into Yahweh's, food laws. We must try to adhere all those principles because it's for our own well-being. Observing holy laws demonstrates an inward attitude of obedience and consecration. It demonstrates a lifestyle that leads to health and wholeness. This way, Israelites will make themselves holy wherever they are, both inside and outside, which is Yahweh's intention. Leviticus 10 verse 10. Junior, help me read Leviticus 10 verse 10. Priests must distinguish between the holy and the common. Holy. It's not. Now, everybody has to participate. Leviticus 10, verse 10. This is where priests come in. Priests must separate themselves from anything that is unholy. Read it for me. 10:10, Leviticus 10:10.
And that ye may put difference between holy and unholy, and between unclean and the clean. 11.
That's all right. Okay. You must follow Yahweh's commandment as far as, the instruction about keeping holy, keeping oneself holy. We must follow is to distinguish oneself from being unclean or common. Now, in that place, that Leviticus chapter 10 verse 10, we see that priests must distinguish between the holy and the common, between unclean and the clean. Holy and common, unclean and clean are two different terms. Holy and common. Things that are holy, things that are common. And things that are unclean and things that are clean. Something may be holy, it will also have status of common. Something may be uncommon in a way the individual could turn it around. That something is uncommon doesn't really mean that that thing is sinful. Because anything that is common could be brought in, could be made holy, could be set apart if you go by the rules. The unclean and clean are a subdivision of the common. Holy refers to Yahweh and to anything closely associated with Yah or set apart for him. Anything that is holy refers to it, because the attribute of Yahweh is holiness. So when we talk about holy, talking about setting apart, and that is in the sense of the Torah, it is something that is designated to Yahweh. Now, what about common? When you say something is common, it refers to everything else outside holy. Anything outside holy could be attributed as common. It's not good for purpose, but it can be good if it is meant to be good or put to good use. The opposite of holy is common. Common things can be made holy, that is, sanctified. Human beings are common, but they can be sanctified by Yah's Spirit.
Okay.
Now look at what happened in Acts chapter 10. Cornelius wasn't holy, he was common. All the Gentile people are regarded as common. In fact, Israelites will nail it on the head and said, they are sinners. I call them sinners. But Bible just recognize them as common. People who does not even have regard for anything holiness. That's what it just boils to. They don't really have regard to holiness. So they are common. And they're looked at as common. Now, once somebody sets himself apart, how will you set yourself apart? Listen to the word and do what the word says. You draw close to Yahweh, and the Spirit of Yahweh will set you apart. It's the Spirit of Yahweh that sets apart. It's not you. It's not. When we listen to the word and we come close to the word, we do what the word requires us to do, then the Spirit does what? Sets us apart. So something that is common there will become holy. It was very common during the Old Testament era, where things could be after atonement or sacrifices are made. Something that is common, something that is unclean, will become holy, will be set apart. Objects are common, but they too can be sanctified by being set apart for Yahweh or Yahweh service. However, the reverse can happen. Someone who has been sanctified can become defiled by wrong actions or wrong attitudes. A person or object that has been sanctified can also be defiled by coming into contact with something unclean. You see that in dead bodies. In the days of Israelites in ancient times, they are asked not to go close to dead bodies or carcasses of animals and so on, as they will defile themselves. They make themselves unclean. A person or object that has been sanctified can also be defiled by coming into contact with something unclean, like animal carcasses, dead bodies, and it could be very dangerous. We are going to see it in this Leviticus chapter 11, where some animals, particularly the carcasses of animals, cannot be touched because they are disease carriers. And people are not careful, they contract such diseases. Now let us look at the main reason. We are looking at this clean and unclean foods, or the laws or the regulations that help us to understand what we must eat or what we must not eat, or drink or not drink. Now there's purpose for that. The major purpose of clean and unclean food laws was to keep clean things from becoming unclean or defiled. You must separate yourself. You must notice. You must recognize. Yahweh wants us to pay attention to what is clean and what is unclean. You must be rigid. You must be sensitive, because your body is the temple of Yahweh. By your act, by your doing, you may separate yourself unknowingly to you, because you are not careful. You are not, deterred to follow Yahweh's instruction. If somebody is forgetful about what he should do, that is somebody who is not living with the Spirit. Because if somebody is not living with the Spirit, you hear the word now or you read about it, by the time you stand up, everything is gone. But if you are careful, the Spirit is in you. When you read, it will internalize. It will remain inside you. And you'll be able to apply it. And you'll be able to be checking yourself. When you want to drink water, you lift it up and look whether there is anything running through it. Because some people swallow even camel inside a cup of water. Because they don't look. They just carry into their mouth. Or at times they say they are holy. They have prayed. I mean, Holy Spirit has taken control. Oh, whatever. Yahweh has blessed every food. Or Yeshua blessed every food. That's what we have in Christendom. Eat whatever. There was one of our in-laws. He openly with his eyes, he drank poison. He knew it was poison. It was given to him. He said, his body is filled with Holy Spirit. He opened his mouth. What the Bible tells us, do not tempt Yahweh. If one does that, person be tempting Yahweh. And that is knowing what is wrong and leaving yourself to plunge yourself into it is a crime. You put yourself into criminality. The person will pay the price. Acts 10:15, we read it a while ago. What Yahweh has cleansed, that call not thou common or unclean. So, actually, one must be very, very careful to understand what is clean and what is unclean. And in the case of Peter, in that Acts chapter 10:15, he thought he was keeping to the tradition of the word, commandments, what was commanded in the scriptures. He did what was right, but he didn't understand that this Yahweh now was referring to human being that he has cleaned. We can clean human being. We cannot call anybody. It's Yahweh that call. And these people were the people that were rejected by their tradition. The iron curtain was placed, or they placed iron curtain between the Gentiles and the Israelites. At the end of the day, Yahweh said he has removed it. But Peter didn't understand. He thought it was, literal animal that was unclean. So he was making excuses, which was right. The Spirit understands where he was going, but he said, no. Look at what Yahweh is doing. Yahweh has made something clean. Now, don't continue your way to say it's unclean. That's clearly human being. Even if it's animal. If it's animal, Yahweh said that animal was unclean, but it's not clean. But Yahweh has never done that and will not do that. Don't quote me. But I'm saying what Yahweh has made clean, it's clean. And we can't argue about that. Now, overall, Yahweh's intention in all this was that Israelites as a whole might remain clean, holy, pure, both inwardly and outwardly, and thereby be a people among whom Yahweh would be pleased to dwell, and who would shine forth the light of his holiness to the nations of the world. Remember, that was the reason Abraham was called apart from the land of Ur, land of Mesopotamia, land of Babylon, when Nimrod had many, many gods, mighty ones, Elohims, or Elohim he had. In fact, the father, Terah, the father of Abraham, had 12 gods, 12 Elohims. The book of Yasha told us that Abraham, the father of Abraham, which was Terah, worshipped 12 gods. And each one represented each month. To tell you how terrible. And what about Nimrod? Oh, the whole land was idols. He bowed to idols like anything. And sun god was the chief of his bow. And that is what is. Have you read Revelation chapter 17, verse 5? That is the same thing in Genesis that Nimrod did. Genesis chapter 10, and he was a mighty one. Mighty one. Elohim. And where did he get his power, or who was guiding him? Satan was guiding him to the sun. Sun god worship. The wife Semiramis and the son Tammuz. Remember Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 14, 15, 16. Talk about Tammuz. Women bowed and they were worshiping, they were crying, they were weeping, they were asking Tammuz for help. So they were worshiping sun god. It continued to Tammuz up till today. Babylon the Great. Revelation chapter 17 verse 5. Talk about Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. The mother of harlots took it on board, modified, put new clothes, everything new, everything looking saintly. And they call the whole world, bow to it. The same sun God, the same Elohim, bow to it. And that is it, up to today. And that's why in Revelation chapter 13, they say there is no one that is like the beast. No one is powerful like the beast. Because the beast demonstrates all the powers of Nimrod. And then up to today, they're still clapping for what Nimrod did. They're told this is the act of Nimrod. No way, they're not hearing that. Yeah, I gave Israel law, that is Torah, for their own good. The law given to them was for their own good. Or even to us today, that they be inwardly and outwardly holy, clean, pure, and set apart for Yahweh and for his use, to rescue or to redeem the entire world from the clutches of Satan. The law given to Israel was established in the Abrahamic Covenant. Now let us notice this, or take on board what transpired in the life of Abraham. Why? Let us look at, we've been looking at the food laws. Why the food laws for Israel? Yahweh wants to separate them. Yahweh wants to sanctify them. Yahweh wants to make them holy, to be like him, so that they will be relevant for use in the nations, in the kingdoms of the world, so that at the end they will bring the kingdom of this earth unto Yahweh. But Israelites couldn't do that. Let us see how Yahweh intended to do that through Abraham. The covenant Yahweh made with Abraham was unconditional. It was established totally by Yahweh's grace. There was no conditions that Abraham or Isaac or Jacob had to meet in order to be chosen by Yah to be in covenant with him. Exodus chapter 19, 5-6. Covenant between Yahweh and Israel was expected to be obeyed or kept after it was established and reaffirmed or ratified. It was certainly Yah's expectation that those in the covenant agreement would obey it and live righteously. If we obey the covenant Yahweh gives to us, we will live a holy life, no doubt about it, a righteous life, and we will prolong our lives. Yah said to Abraham in Genesis chapter 17 verse 1, walk before me, that's where we started, walk before me and be blameless. Why? What do you understand by walk? And what do you understand by blameless? Now, when people say circumcision is cancelled or destroyed or is an old covenant, commandment or rule or law, they don't understand what that word. Genesis chapter 17 verse 1 is the summary of the circumcision, arrangement or covenant that Yahweh made with Abraham. That Genesis chapter 1 is a call for Abraham to come to Yahweh, learn from Yahweh, follow the footsteps of Yahweh, walk before him. So that he will, Genesis 17 verse 1, so that he will live and have a character that is quite different, quite particular, a character that will reflect the true picture of Yahweh. Now, walk before me and be blameless. To walk before Yahweh means to have faith in Yahweh. and to depend on him. That is what that walk is. Walk before me. Have faith in me. How do you have faith in Yahweh? If you want to walk the way Yahweh wants you to walk, it means you put your ears and your eyes in his law. When you read the word of Yahweh, you assimilate the word of Yahweh. What it helps you do is to have trust, confidence, because you have to believe what you read. Remember in Revelation chapter 1 verse 3, we are told that the way we receive blessings of Yahweh is by reading his word, listening to his word, and doing his word. So that is how faith even coming into us. Faith is a spirit. Faith is product of grace. Grace has it all. Grace has both love, joy, peace, long-suffering, faith, everything, long-suffering, self-control. And that is empowerment to obey the law. To obey. And when now you obey, you're obedient, you're activated in faith. Faith to do everything that Yahweh says you should do. Faith to remain steadfastly. Faith to walk before him without being blemished or blameless. Or having sin running with the person. Now, number 2 reason there. Blameless. To be blameless means to do what is right. You must do what is right. You must obey. How do you obey? When you don't read, you don't listen to his word, and you don't do it. Doing it is obedience. And the Christian will say, no, we don't do again. We don't obey again. The Bible from Genesis to Revelation is asking us to obey. And somebody is teaching, don't obey. Now, with the faith you have, how did you acquire faith? You acquire faith through reading, through hearing him, and doing his work. That is, now you've come into obedience. You've come into doing. You've activated obedience. And that way, blessing come to you. So, blameless means to do what is right. What is right is to handle the word and to do it according to the prescription, according to how Yahweh wants you to do. But at times, it is, when you do it the way he prescribes it, it becomes work. Who says you can't do work? Yeshua said in Revelation chapter 3, I know your work. In fact, chapter 2, I know your work. I know your work. All the 7 churches, he told them he knows their work. He understands what they have been doing and what they have not been doing. So what they were not doing, he asked them, do them. Or else, he will take his candlestick away. He will walk away from them. He will take away his Holy Spirit. And some did, some didn't. Some ignored what he said, and they will plunge into darkness. Look at Turkey. That Asia Minor. Turkey. That is where the 7 churches, in fact, that was almost the headquarters of the church. John the Beloved, that wrote the book of Revelation. That was where he was operating before he passed on. Before even he went and got the book of Revelation in the island of Patmos. So, if we fail to heed the instruction to obey, we will miss it. And that is deadly. That's deadly. Yahweh's expectation of Abraham and his seed could be summed up in 2 words. Trust and obey. Trust me. Obey me. That's what he was saying in that Genesis chapter 17 verse 1. walk before me and be blameless. Trust me or trust in me and obey me. That's it. Those two words, trust, obey, faith. Have faith in me, obey. What made Abraham blameless or righteous in Yahweh's sight was both obedience and faith. Notice, Abraham believed Yahweh and he credited it to him as righteousness. Genesis 15 verse 6, Romans chapter 4 verse 3. Abraham also obeyed Yahweh's voice, Yahweh's commandments, Yahweh's statutes, and Yahweh's law. Genesis 26 verse 5, Genesis 2 verse 16, Exodus 16 verse 28, Ezekiel 11:20, John chapter 8 verse 39. So all that Yahweh is doing or is asking us to do is trust me. You can't trust Yahweh when you don't know his word. You don't hear his voice. Look at Abraham. Said Abraham heard his voice, obeyed his voice, acted on his law, his statutes, his commandments, and Yahweh became a righteous man. That's how he qualified as a righteous man. He believed Yahweh, did what Yahweh asked him to do. He was accredited as a righteous man. To be blameless, two important requirements are needed: faith in Yahweh's word and obedience. Faith, the product of grace, drives obedience for the law of Yahweh to be kept. Obedience grows out of faith, that is to do or keep the law. Now, this is what pleases Yahweh. If we keep obeying him. Yeshua did say in Matthew chapter 4 verse 4 and Luke chapter 4 verse 4, I think, both of them, said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahweh. Is it not obedience to his word? What is obedience to his word? So all he's calling us on, whether Yahweh or Yeshua. Remember that when we talk about Yahweh, we're talking about Yeshua, the same Yeshua. Because the Bible said nobody has heard him, his voice, nor seen him. So who are they hearing? And when I read Genesis chapter 1, I began to wonder, who was the creator? And they said Elohim. And Elohim there is plural. Whereas the Bible said Yahweh gave Yeshua his power, his authority. To do what? To create all things. And he said, in him all things are sealed. So where is Yahweh? Yahweh handled everything. Yahweh was not, monitoring or dictating or, no, Yeshua, go and create. So the Yahweh we are hearing in Old Testament or Old Covenant is Yeshua. As we also begin to hear in the New Testament, Yeshua. But it was all the way by the power of the Father. By the Father, the authorization of the Father. In fact, I wrote an article 2 days ago. I concluded it yesterday. Just try to read it. Read about Elohim and Yahweh. Who you worship. Who do you worship? Yahweh and Elohim. In that article, it will give you quite understanding, good understanding of the worship. What happened in the Old Testament particularly and reflected in the New Testament, and how people missed the way. It will really give you instruction. Faith is the product of grace that releases the powers of obedience. Like Abraham, who walked by faith and not by sight. was powered into obedience, thus qualifying for righteousness. Similarly, our righteousness and salvation is by faith in Yeshua and keeping the commandments of Yahweh. Revelation chapter 14 verse 12. Revelation 22 verse 14. Torah or law was given to believers to, number one, set or establish a written standard of righteousness for Israel, to acquire a holy, clean, and just characteristics which will set the believer apart from others. Exodus 19 verse 6. Again, Torah or law was given to believers to identify sinful behavior amongst his people. He wanted the Israelites to have no misunderstanding about what sin was. Romans chapter 7 verse 7. To know acceptable and unacceptable behavior, including our children, including to teach our children, is part of the requirement for following Yeshua or Yahweh. We must know what is acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior. And we must teach our children the same. In Shema, we are told we should learn the love of Yahweh and teach the same love of Yahweh. And that's exactly what he's saying here. What is acceptable is what Yahweh wants us to know, to follow. And what is unacceptable, take it away, throw it away, because it's what defiles. Now, again, Torah or law was given to believers to reveal Yahweh's own holiness to his people. The Israelites has to know that sin matters to Yahweh. Sin, Yahweh takes time to look at people and the way they live their lives, whether they're living in sin. He cares. He wants to know. He wants to make sure that his people are free from sin. That Yahweh would not live among a sinful people. That sin is a reproach to the sinner. Therefore, they needed to remain in fear or in awe of Yahweh's holiness and do nothing to offend it. The law was given to keep Yahweh's people from sin so that he could dwell among them and have fellowship with them. Again, giving the law was one of Yahweh's nature, which is love. The law is divided into two. That's the 10 Commandments, for instance, divided into two. Love for Yahweh and love for the brethren or the neighbor. By giving the law, Yah wanted to bless his people. He wanted them to be free from the power and the penalty of sin, which is death. The power of sin is death. And anybody that want to, ride on sin or allow sin to dictate his life is going to pay the price with death. We often think of the laws of being burdensome, restrictive. The law of Yahweh is not burdensome. The law of Yahweh is not restrictive. The law of Yahweh does not interfere with your life. Rather, it builds your life. It guides you, gives you direction, gives you understanding, knowledge, wisdom. That's what the word, the law of Yahweh, which is his word, does. But Yah's law is liberating. It gives freedom from bondage. For instance, Israelites living in Egypt. Look at all the bondage they had or they were bonded with in Egypt. They were liberated as soon as they were given law. They were liberated. And the blessing comes from the law. And the life also flows from the law to those who keep it and live by it. Jimmy, there's no light here. Switch it on. Switch that thing on. Leviticus chapter 2 verse 2. Let's quickly, I will rush this place. Now, I'm now entering into, I've only just been discussing verse 1 since we've been talking. Verse 1. Now, verse 2 to 8. Clean and unclean food. There, they were named. What is clean and unclean food? They were named. Animals that live on land. Yahweh just give us description. So with the description, we have to follow. Not all the whole animals in the world that were listed. He gave us guideline, description of what we should do or how we should know what is to eat, what is clean and what is unclean. Animals that live on land are discussed from verses 2 to 8. Now, what about the clean ones? What does it ask us to do? Only those animals that has a split hoof and true cord, split hoofs, that chew cord, those are the animals that we are to eat. They chew their food thoroughly. That is chewing cord. Chewing it thoroughly. They are clean animals. They are to be eaten. Verse 3 there. Now, unclean animals. What did he say? They are the ones that chew. They may chew the cord and they may not divide their hoof. So such animals are called unclean food or unclean animals. You are not required to eat them. So Yahweh gives us prescription. Sort of, we have to look out. If a particular animal has a split hoof and chew cord, that's chewed whatever it is thoroughly before it eats or swallows it, that animal can be eaten. Now, if they chew cord, but they don't divide the hoof, they don't have split hoof, they are not good to be eaten. For instance, coney, hare. It's an animal that they call hare. Practical reasons for considering certain animals unclean, like the rabbit, pig, is that they carry disease. That is the major reason. Yahweh says, look out for such animals. Rabbit, pig, they carry diseases. We should not eat them. What about camel? Camel is used for transportation. Such animal that you bear so much burden. You take through long distance and all that. That one is like a pest in, a pet in the house. You don't eat it. Animal carcasses are not to be touched. Verse 8. Because carcasses were a source of disease, even of epidemics. Yahweh knew this because he is greatest scientist. He knows in and all the whole anatomy of everything that is living. He knows it. So he can tell us what is in everything, whether the animals or human beings, even vegetations that are out there. He knows every ABC about them. Okay, what are verses 9 to 12? Leviticus 11, 9 to 12. Water creatures, like fishes. Now, what you have to look out before you eat any fish is fin. Has it got fin? Has it got scales? If they have fin and scales, they are clean to be eaten. If they don't have, they are not to be eaten. What we are treating tonight is not a joke. Because many times we pop into bookers, we pop into hoteliers, we pop into whatever, mama put environment, whatever the dish I give you, you won't ask. You are not asking, an Israelite must ask, you must find out what you are eating. If they tell you it's not within all these prescriptions, please check out. Go away. Now, fishes without fin and scales are not clean. Don't eat them. E.g., eels, clams, crabs, snails. They are detestable. Prawns, all those, you know them. They are detestable. They are called detestable. They are not eatable. They are not edible. These are much more likely to carry diseases than free swimming fishes. Those fishes that you find. All these crabs, eels, snails, and all that, they eat dirty things. Dangerous diseases enters into them. And their body, they have internal, an inbuilt organism or mechanism which accommodates the poisons they swallow. Because they are called scavengers. They clean and clear the delta areas of rivers, riverine, and so on and so forth. That's where they operate. So, people like prawn, crayfish, they go after them. You are eating something you don't know. Many diseases. People are sick today. Some people, their leg is bent. Some people, their neck is twisted. Some people, their belly is, because they have eaten something that is not, permitted. And at the end of the day, they are paying the price. Doctors cannot even find out what is going on. Even when they find out that there's no medication to cure it, they have eaten dangerous things. Animals that fly, birds, flying insects that or say creatures that hop, e.g., locusts, grasshoppers, can be eaten. Now, creatures that cannot be eaten, or birds, such like birds of prey, birds that eat others. Can you give an example? Birds that eat others.
Dog.
Birds that fly, that eat others. Okay, hawk. Well,
Parrot.
in as much as they eat themselves, they eat others. And they eat carcasses. Don't eat them. They are dangerous. That's what it just want to let us know there. Now, Leviticus 11:24-28. Wash oneself and one's clothes after touching a carcass. Anything that has to do with carcass, any dead thing. Don't touch, don't eat it. Well, animals or whatever that die of its own and with its blood in it, don't eat them. When it becomes carcass, it's poison. Dangerous diseases may be operating in it at that stage. In the days of Israelites, they don't touch them. They are warned not to touch them. And if they touch them, they come back, they will wash themselves, clean themselves, even dead bodies, human beings. When somebody dies, go to where somebody dies, the first thing you do, in fact that culture is still being performed in my country. They go to where somebody died, they come back, particularly during the burying day. The person will remove his clothes, bath, wash before he touches anything in the house. So that's the biblical biblical prescription. It's still going on within my communities up to today. It is not a sin to touch a carcass. Sometimes it's necessary, but one needs to wash afterwards, wash and clean properly, because disease may be raging. Verse 29-38. Reptiles and rodents like rats, snakes are not to be eaten. The unclean animals, including their carcasses. Don't touch them. A lot of poison is with them. They are carriers of diseases. They are the cause of plagues throughout history from time immemorial. The scripture says this has been the source of. In fact, when COVID-19 was announced in China, after nations attacked China, China said, no, it was bats. It was one animal or the other, at the end of the day that people contracted, and that was it. So, for them to run and said, oh, it is from animals, it's not from their lab and all that and all that, they want people to believe. This is what is in the scriptures or Bible, that carcasses of all those stuff, all those things that are dead, all those animals. There are certain animals, whether they are dead or alive, if they pass through where human beings live, sickness must fall out. So to such animals, beware. That is what the Bible is saying. And be careful never to touch or near or, eat them. 44 to 45, verses 44 to 45, summarizes the whole points of these laws that we've been recalling here since. Be ye holy, Yahweh says, for I am holy. That is the essence of all these laws. All these laws. Yahweh didn't give us law to punish us. Yahweh didn't give us law to restrict us. Yahweh didn't give us law to make us not to eat what we want to eat. No. It's for our own safety, our own good, so that we continue to not only be clean and pure, but to be healthy and to be alive and to live long. That's why he gave us these laws. So these laws are just guidelines we must follow in order to live a glorious life. These laws were not ends in themselves, but were designed to teach you Israelites to consecrate themselves to Yahweh in every aspect of their lives. Exodus 29, 1-9. Not only the priests, pastors, ministers needs to be consecrated, but even Israelites needed to be consecrated themselves, because Yahweh intends Israelites to be a kingdom of priests. Don't say it is just for pastors or ministers or, why would I keep the food laws? It's meant for those who approach Yahweh. No. It's for everybody. Practice it, because you are going to operate in the kingdoms, so that you will be part of redeeming them, bringing them to Yahweh when Yeshua returns. If we don't learn all these things now, we will be learning it when he returns. So we are being asked to do them now. Every time Israelites sits down to a meal, they are reminded by these food laws that they were a distinct people, clean people, chosen by Yahweh to reflect his holiness amongst the nations. Likewise, in family life, in social life, and in agricultural life. In every life setting, the various laws about cleanness and uncleanness constantly reminds every average Israelite of his status as Yahweh's treasured possession, as Yahweh's chosen person. Exodus 19, 5-6. Are believers today required to obey the food laws? We are concluding here. Are we required to obey these food laws? Is it something of the ancient, as the Christians are saying, this is not for us. This has been nailed to the tree. It's not for those who have gotten grace and tickets to fly to to heaven. Whether it's heaven or hell, because it could be hell when they are not in obedience. How did they get their faith? I wonder. So, the answer is clear and very simple. Big capital yes. It is for everybody. It's for us today. It's for all that are called believers, Israelites. All believers are Israelites. Israelites are those who believe in Yeshua Messiah and keep the commandments of Yahweh.